Dear viewers, welcome to our channel. Subscribe to receive more stories every day. Sophia Montgomery had built her life around two pillars: her husband, David, and her best friend, Laura. To her, their bond was unshakable, a triangle of trust she cherished deeply. Together, she and David had spent years building their marketing consultancy, taking it from a kitchen table idea to a thriving business. Laura had been there every step of the way, cheering them on and providing a listening ear during countless late-night conversations. Sophia's world began to crumble on an ordinary Tuesday afternoon. She returned home early from a client meeting, her heels clicking on the polished floors of the house she and David had painstakingly designed. The faint murmur of voices drifted from the living room. Curious, Sophia set down her bag and walked toward the sound. But as she rounded the corner, she froze. David and Laura stood close, their hands intertwined, their faces a mix of guilt and defiance. "Sophia," David started, his tone sharp and unapologetic. "We need to talk." Sophia's heart dropped. The conversation that followed was a blur. David's words, about their marriage being over, about his newfound love for Laura, and about how he was taking everything they built together, hit like bullets. Laura said nothing, her silence more cutting than any insult. By the end of the hour, Sophia's life had unraveled. The man she loved and the friend she trusted had not only betrayed her but conspired to strip her of everything she'd worked for. Bank accounts were emptied, business assets transferred. David had planned it all meticulously, using legal loopholes to ensure Sophia had no immediate recourse. With nothing left, Sophia packed her essentials and left the home that no longer felt like hers. Weeks passed in a haze of despair and anger. Sophia moved into a modest studio apartment on the outskirts of town, a far cry from the luxury she once knew. Her days were spent juggling part-time jobs and poring over the financial and legal mess David had left behind. At night, she would lie awake, her mind racing with questions. How could they do this? How had I not seen it coming? Then, one evening, while sorting through old business files in search of anything that could help her fight back, Sophia came across a document she didn't recognize. It was a certificate of incorporation for M&L Marketing Solutions Incorporated. The name was unfamiliar, and it listed her as the primary owner. Her pulse quickened. She grabbed her laptop and began researching the company. What she found left her breathless. The company, established 5 years ago, was a subsidiary of their main consultancy. David had registered it under her name without telling her, likely to shield himself from tax liabilities. But what he hadn't counted on was that, by doing so, he had inadvertently given Sophia sole ownership of a thriving business. The next morning, Sophia visited a lawyer, using what little savings she had left to book an initial consultation. As she laid out the details, the lawyer's eyes widened. "Mrs. Montgomery," he said, leaning forward, "this company is entirely yours. Legally, David has no claim to it. In fact, he's been using this entity to funnel profits from your main business. With the right strategy, you could turn this into your leverage." Sophia felt the stirrings of something she hadn't felt in weeks: hope. Over the next few months, she poured every ounce of energy into reclaiming what was rightfully hers. She restructured M&L Marketing, shifted its operations to her control, and reached out to key clients to win them over. Bit by bit, she began rebuilding her life. Sophia worked tirelessly, fueled by equal parts determination and righteous anger. The more she delved into the operations of M&L Marketing, the more David's deceit became evident. He hadn't just transferred profits. He had siphoned millions into personal accounts and funneled it to clients with shady ties. These weren't just legal loopholes, they were potential crimes. Armed with this information, Sophia knew she couldn't afford to make a misstep. She kept her discoveries quiet, focusing instead on solidifying her position as the rightful owner of the company. Every spare moment was dedicated to learning the intricacies of the business: contracts, client relationships, and financial strategies. What David had tried to bury became her secret weapon. The first major breakthrough came when Sophia secured a meeting with one of M&L's largest clients, a cosmetics giant on the verge of launching a major campaign. The client, unaware of the drama unfolding behind the scenes, was hesitant at first. "Why should we stay with M&L?" the CEO asked, his tone skeptical. "David's been the face of the operation for years. Can you handle this?" Sophia met his gaze, her voice steady. "Because I was the backbone. Every strategy, every successful campaign you've had, those were my ideas." David took credit, but the results, they're mine. The room fell silent. Finally, the CEO nodded. "You've got one shot. Don't let us down." That deal marked the turning point. As word spread about Sophia's leadership, more clients reached out, intrigued by her grit and vision. M&L Marketing was no longer David's shadowy operation. It was a growing, reputable firm under Sophia's name. Months later, Sophia was ready to confront David and Laura. By then, M&L Marketing was thriving, and Sophia had accumulated enough evidence to hold them accountable for their betrayal. She arranged a meeting, sending formal invitations to David and Laura under the pretense of resolving financial matters. The meeting was held at a sleek conference room in M&L's new headquarters. David arrived first, his confident smirk faltering as he took in the surroundings. Laura followed, her expression a mix of curiosity and unease. "Sophia," David began, his tone dripping with condescension. "What's all this? Some sort of revenge fantasy?" Sophia smiled, calm and poised. "Not revenge. Just justice." She handed them each a folder filled with documents, proof of David's fraudulent activities and Laura's complicity. Their faces turned pale as they scanned the pages. "You thought you could steal everything from me and walk away," Sophia said, her voice steady. "But here's the reality. The company you funneled your profits into is mine. The clients you thought you could poach, they've come back to me. And this evidence, it's enough to put you behind bars." David's confidence crumbled. "Sophia, wait. We can work this out." But Sophia wasn't interested in negotiations. "This isn't a negotiation, David. This is me taking back what's mine." The next weeks were a whirlwind of legal battles. Armed with her lawyer and the mountain of evidence she'd collected, Sophia filed lawsuits against David and Laura for fraud, embezzlement, and defamation. The media caught wind of the case, and soon the story of the betrayed wife who outsmarted her husband and best friend was making headlines. David's smug demeanor disappeared entirely under the weight of public scrutiny. Former associates distanced themselves, and clients abandoned him in droves. Laura, too, found herself isolated, her name tarnished by association. As Sophia's star rose, she didn't just settle for reclaiming what she'd lost. She expanded M&L Marketing, hiring a diverse team of creatives and strategists to take the company to new heights. Her story became a source of inspiration, not just for her employees but for women around the world who had been dismissed, underestimated, or betrayed. Through it all, Sophia remained grounded. She channeled her newfound success into charitable initiatives, funding programs for women in business and supporting survivors of financial abuse. Sophia's success continued to soar, but she wasn't finished yet. David and Laura's downfall wasn't just a personal victory. It was a chance to set an example of accountability and resilience. As the legal battles drew to a close, Sophia prepared for the final confrontation, the courtroom showdown that would seal their fate. The trial began with media fanfare. Crowds gathered outside the courthouse, eager to witness the culmination of a scandal that had captured the public's imagination. Sophia, dressed in a tailored suit, exuded quiet confidence as she entered the courtroom. David and Laura, however, looked haggard. Their once polished appearances were overshadowed by the stress of mounting legal fees and public humiliation. The prosecution presented a compelling case. They laid out the intricate web of fraud David had spun, using M&L Marketing as a shell to divert funds and evade taxes. Witnesses testified to Laura's role in facilitating the schemes, portraying her as a willing accomplice. But the most damning evidence came when Sophia took the stand. She recounted in vivid detail how David and Laura had manipulated her trust to strip her of everything she owned. Her testimony was raw and heartfelt, resonating deeply with the jury and the spectators. When the prosecution presented the documents Sophia had unearthed, proof of the fraud and embezzlement, there was no doubt left in anyone's mind. The defense tried to paint Sophia as vengeful and opportunistic, but their efforts fell flat. Her story was too compelling, her evidence too solid. After weeks of testimony and deliberation, the jury delivered its verdict: guilty on all counts. David was sentenced to prison for his financial crimes, while Laura faced significant fines and community service. The judge's words echoed through the courtroom. "Mrs. Montgomery, your perseverance and integrity in the face of betrayal and injustice are commendable. This case serves as a reminder that trust is not a license for exploitation." For Sophia, it was a moment of closure. The people who had tried to destroy her were finally being held accountable, and the world had witnessed her rise from the ashes. Sophia's story didn't end in the courtroom. As news of the trial spread, she was inundated with messages of support and invitations to share her journey. She appeared on talk shows, delivered keynote speeches, and became a sought-after mentor for women navigating their own challenges. But Sophia wasn't interested in fame for fame's sake. She used her platform to advocate for stronger protections against financial abuse and exploitation, partnering with organizations to create resources for vulnerable individuals. Her company, M&L Marketing, flourished under her leadership, becoming a symbol of innovation and integrity. Sophia expanded its reach globally, building a legacy that honored the hard work and resilience it had taken to get there. Months after the trial, Sophia received an unexpected visitor: Laura. She arrived unannounced at M&L's headquarters, looking far removed from the glamorous figure she once was. Sophia hesitated but agreed to meet her in the lobby. "I just wanted to apologize," Laura began, her voice trembling, "for everything. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to say it." Sophia studied her for a long moment. "I appreciate the apology, Laura, but forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. I've moved on, and I suggest you do the same." Laura nodded, tears in her eyes. She left without another word, leaving Sophia to reflect on how far she had come. Sophia's journey was one of pain, betrayal, and ultimately triumph. What began as a devastating blow had transformed her into a beacon of strength and resilience. Standing in her corner office overlooking the city, Sophia allowed herself a rare moment of reflection. She had reclaimed her power, built an empire, and ensured that no one could ever take advantage of her again. As she looked out at the skyline, a sense of peace washed over her. Sophia Montgomery was no longer a victim of betrayal. She was the architect of her own destiny. Dear viewers, thank you for watching. If you like this story, please subscribe to our channel to receive more stories every day. Share with us what you think of this story and tell us where you're watching from.